So I'm a father of one. I gotta find a babysitter. I found Care.com and I was blown away. Through the platform, I was able to find local and experienced candidates along with their reviews and rates, which were way more affordable than I anticipated. Care.com really put me at ease knowing that they were all required to go through a background check. If you're like me and you need to find someone reliable for your childcare necessities, check out Care.com. Find the ideal sitters for your childcare needs.
You've discovered your link to GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast. Now, here's your host, GoPowerCat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the PowerCat Questions podcast. I hope everyone had a great Christmas, got everything you wanted, including COVID-19. Zach, how was your Christmas?
Healthier than it is, healthier than I am right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Zach. He doesn't know how he did it, but he got it. Well done, son. Well done. Probably out handling door handles at weird places. It sounded much worse than I meant it to be. Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, and Ryan Gilbert, who's currently back at home in Kansas City. I think he lives in Mission Hills. I'm not sure. And he will be back in Manhattan for Saturday's TCU at K-State basketball game as the Wildcats return to Big 12 action after beating Omaha like a drum in the final 10 seconds. They won, 60-58, Gills? Was that the score?
Mm-hmm.
I just wrote about it for the site on, what is today, Wednesday? On Thursday. So I should probably know the score. It's in there. Didn't look great, but they got the win. They're at 5-5. And the first half of our questions podcast today is going to be about basketball. In the second half, I think we're going to go into Pokemon. I'm not sure what the topic is. Zach didn't share it, but we're shuffling the deck again today, and Zach will be asking the questions. But we haven't shuffled our sponsor, which is the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. We appreciate everything Kevin and his crew do for Manhattan, which is mostly keep us sane as 2020 comes to an end. And, of course, if you're going to go to Aggieville on New Year's Eve, good for you. I'm glad you feel comfortable doing it, and make sure you make yourself comfortable at either Tanner's or the High-Low, our segment sponsors. They get their alcohol from the fridge. Why don't you? Now it's your questions from Wabash Station. Zach, take it away.
From Limestone Silo, is it a sign of severe mental problems that I went from wanting Bruce tarred and feathered after Fort Hays State to now being excited about what he may have growing with this group of players? How does he continue to bring me back to loving him? And there's a postscript here. He asked this question. K-State was down 29-18 in the first half to Omaha, and he would like to take back this question. And he's got the tar boiling again, and he's upset. But they did win the game. So
I get it. And Gills, I'm anxious to hear your thoughts on this. But first, it's me. I was really upset with the Fort Hays State loss, and I still am. But in a strange way, I think it slapped some sense into this young team. I mean, I think they had to hit rock bottom, and that was it. Man, I hope that was it, losing that game. They didn't play well against Omaha. Not that I expected them to play well, being young and having a 7-8 day break for the holidays, eating lots of Christmas cookies, as Bruce likes to say, and then coming back and looking pretty sluggish against a mediocre to bad Omaha team. But they found a way to win. And they did that against Wisconsin, Milwaukee. I saved it right there. Against Milwaukee after losing to Fort Hays. Wasn't pretty, but they won. And that, at the end of the day, when you got a young team, getting the W is really important. They've now won 4 or 5. They are back to 500 at 5-5 with that loss being Baylor, which was a total mismatch. And they, as I mentioned, played TCU on Saturday. But Limestone Silo, strap it in, because this is going to be the season. And there will be more losses ahead than wins in all likelihood. They are 1-1 in the Big 12. But I still think 6 out of 18 would be a nice accomplishment for this young team in a season in which the Big 12 is absolutely loaded. mean, that win came against the 8th pick in the conference, Iowa State. And Saturday they play the 9th pick, TCU. And oh, by the way, they're already 1-1 in the conference, like K-State, but they are 7-2 on the season. So that will not be a walk in the park for the Wildcats. I am intrigued to see what we see on Saturday, because what we saw on Tuesday wasn't very good, but it was good enough to win. And I can accept that with this young group. Gills?
Yeah, I mean, a win's a win. It wasn't pretty, and no one's really proud of that win. But, I mean, they've won 4 out of 5, like you said, and the only loss in there is to Baylor, who's one of the best teams in the country. So I think that they're headed in the right direction. And, some of those Bruce, fire Bruce shouters have kind of quieted down a little bit. But, I mean, nothing's changed too much. We know that this is what it is. The K-State's going to lose games and there's going to be frustrations. But down the line, I mean, Selton Miguel, I think the biggest thing to take away is, the last 10 seconds, they actually, won the game when they were down. And, moving forward, that's going to pay dividends for K-State, just so that they know how it feels to have that pressure and go win a game when it's close, something they couldn't do early on in the season. So they're making steps, slow and steady wins the race. But, a win's a win.
I'll say this about this team. It is sort of rare for me to recognize a player that if they're having a bad night shooting, I want them to still have the ball in their hands. Dean Wade was never that way for me. When Dean was off, he was off. And Barry Brown, too. I mean, once in a while, you kind of wanted the ball in his hands, but I never saw him as a big shot guy at the end of the game. Okay, he had some, but when he was out of cycle, it just didn't look pretty. Jacob Pullen is a guy that you wanted to have the ball in his hands. And I don't care if he was 0 of 10 from the field. The game's on the line. I wanted Jake to have the ball. That's the kind of player he was. It was the bigger the moment, the bigger the Jake, quite often. I kind of feel like K-State not only has a guy in that, and Selton Miguel, who was pretty dreadful for most of the night on Tuesday and then hit some late threes, including one with 9 seconds left that won the game. But I think Nigel Pack's the same way. I think you got 2 guys that are real gamers, that you want the ball in their hands when the game's on the line. And that is a really encouraging sign to go along with Davian Bradford, a legitimate big man. He played his most physical game of his career and was only in foul trouble because the refs stunk. But he had 10 rebounds in 22 minutes of action. I'll take all of that. Even in a 2-point win over an Omaha team that Kansas beat by 40. Now, comparative scores don't usually add up, but you can kind of see where it's probably going when K-State plays Kansas. And that's the way it's going to be against those elite teams. But they're still going to win some games, and we'll see if they can do that on Saturday against TCU.
Before we move on, I'll add, I feel like last season was so unsatisfying that, and even the beginning of this season just kind of felt like the same. And, that's where you get, the fire Bruce, all the unsatisfaction of what K-State basketball has been the last 18 months or so. But with this group of guys, I feel like, as unsatisfying as last year was, there's a ton of guys on this team. And as we've seen throughout the season so far, any one of them can kind of step up here. Like with Selton Miguel last night, you didn't really expect him to be the guy, but he is, and I think as we go through conference play, we're going to see a decent number of combinations of depth on this roster that is going to be able to maybe not win games, but at least put together a performance that says, hey, those guys can win. And those guys, maybe not this year, but next year and years after that, can compete in the Big 12. Plus, just add in the fact Luke Kazubke, I think I got that right.
Kasubke.
Looks good to me.
Actually, I went to the phonetic pronunciation. The media guide is Kasubke. Soup.
Kasubke?
Yeah, soup. I don't know where the soup comes from, but I do like soup. So that's a good sign.
But, the fact that he hasn't even, he's still injured and he hasn't played a game yet, I think it just says a lot. Looking at how much K-State has so far and what we can see brewing, and then you get to add him in, man, you got to be at least a little bit excited about the future. And you may recognize, this year, the top half of the league, you're not in that stratosphere. You're not going to compete there, compete, for that seventh place spot, really, maybe eighth even, and just try to get 6 wins out of this conference.
And you know what? I kind of like Suri Lewis too. He's really raw. Really raw.
He needs more confidence.
Yeah, he needs more time and confidence. But he reminds me of Jamar Samuels. And what I mean by that is when Jamar was a freshman, he was like a chicken with his head cut off out there, just running around, fouling people, diving for loose balls, doing all kinds of stuff that seriously drove Frank Martin insane. But he was busting his ass. And that's what Suri Lewis does. And it's really encouraging. This group is really, really encouraging. And I'm just going to be really bluntly honest here. Even if you're in the Fire Bruce crowd, even if you've stopped watching, and you may not be listening to this, if K-State can maintain this core group of players, if Bruce is the coach or if someone else is the coach, if he retires or is fired or moves on to be an analyst on ESPN. Okay, that was a reach. This core group of players, if maintained, can do something special. And I add that if maintained because that is going to be very crucial for this coaching staff. You did an incredible job of putting together 8 guys in a new recruiting class that seem to have a bright upside. They really do. There's not, guys, I don't see one guy where I look at him and go, this guy can't play at this level at all. There's nothing he can contribute. No, none of that. And they've had one of those in every class. It doesn't matter what class it was. You go through the years of Bruce Weber recruiting classes, you can find a dude that you go, who the hell was that? I don't remember him. And they even had some guys that were highly recruited guys that didn't ever pan out for K-State or anyone else. This is a really optimistic group. And maybe your best case scenario is Bruce doesn't coach them. I'm not going to get into that. I don't care. They've done a good job hitting reset. You may not think he deserved to have a second reset, but here we are. And I'm finding optimism amongst the losses and the sometimes frustrating play because Tuesday night sucked to watch most of that game. And yet they found ways to make enough plays to get over the hump. And I'll take that. And plus now Zach's put the Rolling Stones in my head. So I found some satisfaction.
Fitz, would you, if you compare this incoming recruiting class and maybe even, go back to last year a little bit and kind of compare some errors here, is this the most confident you've been in a group of guys since maybe those Jamar Samuels, Jacob Poland, those late, about 10 years ago, Frank Martin teams? Yeah,
the Bob Huggins recruiting class that became Frank Martin's recruiting class. I mean, it had Michael freaking Beasley in there. Speaking of guys that you always wanted to shoot the ball. I mean, you didn't care what he'd done in the game. The thing about Mike is he didn't have many bad games. I mean, he didn't have games where he missed. This is the best I've felt. You might want to have hindsight and point to Dean Wade, Barry Brown, Kamau Stokes. But again, I'm going to remind you that there were 8 dudes in that recruiting class, and you can probably only name the 3 I just named. I would venture a guess that 3 years down the road, you're going to be able to name a lot more than 3 guys in this group. Because I think when the sophomores are seniors and Casey Ezeagu is amongst those, man, these names are just not working for me. I think he'll be around. I think he'll be good. And he'll be taking a back seat to Davion Bradford, probably. But those two combined will be unlike anything K-State's had at center since Jack Parr, Bob Boozer. And by the way, that's a long time ago because it predates me. Literally predates me. So, yeah, I'm really optimistic about this group. There are as far as I can tell, there's no one even close to a Michael Beasley. And there may not be a Jacob Poland, although Nigel Pack seems to have a little bit of that. But Selton Miguel has something Jake had, and that was a whole lot of dog in him. He'd get after you. And he didn't matter if he was having a bad game. You know what he was going to do? He was going to make sure you had a bad game too. And I like that about Selton. And I feel good about the future of this program. And if you can somehow overcome your disdain for Bruce Weber, who, by the way, is one of the nicest guys in the world, and prove that by admitting he watches Hallmark movies at Christmas time. Wow, Bruce, don't share that. No. AMC was fine, but when you crossed over into Hallmark, it gets worrisome. If you can get past that and focus on the kids, you're going to feel better about things. And you thought this would be a short podcast.
Yo Mama, Shane Southwell seems to be getting a lot of coaching time during timeouts. Is that surprising for a younger assistant?
Not Shane. That's Shane. And I think Bruce likes that about him, that he's thinking, and once in a while you can tell Bruce kind of gives him a look like, hell no. But he's trying. He's offering, and I think Shane's going to be a head coach. I don't know if he'll be a good head coach, but he's showing indications of the guy that wants to be in control. And I appreciate that about him. I think it's really encouraging. For now, though, we need Shane to make sure he's adding a guy or two every year to the recruiting class that is really going to help this program keep going, because now they got the base and they got to keep adding pieces.
From Dr. J54, why can't Bruce Weber stop the team from taking bad three-pointers?
I don't know if any coach can. I'm watching that. And, okay, so this is stealing from my own story I wrote, but Selton Miguel in the postgame talked about coach said, keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting. Well, a 19-year-old kid is hearing, keep shooting threes, keep shooting threes. And Bruce is saying, keep taking good shots, they'll start going in. Not keep wolfing up three-pointers, which half of their shots, literally, mathematically, Riley Gates, half of their field goals were three-pointers. I mean, it's incredible. And they were awful. What were they, 8 of 32 or something? No, that's not right, 8 of 31. It was awful. But they hit them when they counted them. They hit them later in the game. But, yeah, these guys just got to learn. Now, the thing that Bruce said in the post game, but it was in a question I asked, I believe, is you've got to value your possessions. I don't think I've heard him say that phrase very often, if at all. And it was a real emphasis of Huggins, and it's what usually makes West Virginia good. Because if you win more possessions than you lose, you're probably going to win the game. So quit worrying about who leads at half or who's leading at any point in the game. Win the possession right in front of you with a good shot, a good pass, or on the other end of the floor, really solid team defense and a nice block-out rebound. Win the possession in front of you, and you're going to win games. And that's the biggest lesson I think this group needs to learn. And you don't win the possession by wolfing up an immediate three-pointer when you can work it down, around, and in. You got a big guy in the middle who can score and pass. Work the offense. And I think Bruce was experimenting a little bit last night or Tuesday night. And I think with only 8 players, he really had some mismatched parts at times on the court.
I was watching with my buddy last night, and we were saying it reminds us of Iowa State back with Hoiberg. I mean, all they were doing was just chucking up threes. And when they go in, it's awesome because, Jacksonville, they were, hitting them left and right. And then, after a break of 8 or 9 days, things weren't falling. So, Bruce, it's a matter of, Fitz, I don't know what you exactly said there, but if you're unhappy with one of your players, you can just, bench them and say, hey, stop, shooting those. And if you do it again, you're going right back to the bench. So I don't know if it's impossible, like you might've said, but I think it's Dejuan. I think we've talked about him enough, but you've got to realize who your scorers are.
Yeah.
And who can make the shots.
Yeah. You're right. That's one thing that Bruce, I sense he's being very careful about. He doesn't want to damage anyone. He wants them to feel confident. I think we'll see that as we progress a little bit, maybe. Get your ass off the floor, sit down here until you can make better decisions. I see him doing that a lot with Dejuan Gordon. The behind-the-back pass in the lane to Davion Bradford was one of the silliest things I've ever seen. Because Dejuan still has this part of his game, and it goes with his being enamored with three-point shots, where he wants to be the highlight guy. And I've got really tough news for Dejuan, and I don't think the coaches are sharing this with him. You're not a highlight guy unless it's like a breakaway dunk. You need to be the solid blue-collar guy that ends the game with that low double-double, that 11 and 12. Because that you're capable of that. And if you're doing that, this team's going to win. I mean, if you're willing to do that, you're not going to make silly turnovers and put up a bunch of three-pointers that don't have a good chance of going in, this team's going to win a lot of games with Dejuan Gordon doing 11 rebounds and 12 points, even if they all come at the free throw line like they did at Iowa State. That's how you win.
From KSU Man, last question.
Last question.
Last question of the first half.
Good job. Way to correct it.
A couple of them. Last question of the first half. Any update on when Luke Kazubke will return? And from Yo Mama, is there any chance he redshirts?
Boy, I hadn't really thought of that, Yo Mama. I don't think so because they need players. But if there's any ongoing issues with that foot, maybe. But Gilsey's getting close, isn't he? I mean, I think it's a matter of conditioning at this point. I think Montavious might play Saturday, so he'll be back, which is funny because I thought he'd be the last of the three guys that are injured to return after Bruce sounded so dour about it earlier on. So having him, a high-effort guy, will help. And, he seems to be really engaged along the sideline. Iziagu will really help because, Bradford had some foul trouble and they had to go to different guys that aren't true posts that can play in there. K-State's got some size that really is, more perimeter based. So, but I think he's getting close, but he's really reluctant to say it'll be a week. He does never lay that out, does he, Gills?
Yeah, I believe he said he was doing 5-on-0 practicing.
That's right.
In his last press conference. So, yeah, it's still a little ways away, but I don't know the rule, and I should. But, I mean, if you redshirt, that doesn't count towards your COVID season, or does it?
See, that's another point. I don't know if that even matters this year. Yeah, I think everyone's redshirted, basically. I'm not sure. I really need to clarify that with sports information on how this basketball season is being handled. But I will say this. As someone who played some basketball in my day, I was a really good player 5-on-0. I mean, I dominated 5-on-0. In fact, it was really more like 1-on-0 because I wasn't passing the damn ball. I was uncovered. I was going to shoot it. 5-on-0 was my game. And if Kazubke can hit the three-pointer 5-on-0, I want him to take those when he's wide open all day, every day. God, it's been so long since K-State had a big man that can then score at the rim and a three-point shooter combined. Well, honestly, you know what? I don't think it's ever happened. I mean, if you want to say Curtis Kelly was a big man that could score at the rim, I'll remind you that he was actually the 4 on that team because Luis Colon, the very definition of a big man at Kansas State, was the 5. And the guys that were really good 5s, Boozer and Parr, predated the three-point line. So I don't know if K-State's ever had a three-point shooter with a big man that can score. Amazing. See, there's something optimistic to be found about this team if you just look. I'm not optimistic about the rest of this podcast because I have no idea what we're going to be asked. They won't tell me, but we'll find out on the other side of this break.
The PowerCat Podcast will be right back.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 $5 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created, James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com, code podcast. That's JamesAllen.com, code podcast.
We now send it back to the PowerCat podcast.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Questions podcast. We made a giant decision in the break that Zach would continue to ask the questions. It wasn't easy. But then we realized that Gills covers basketball, and Gills feels like he sucks at asking questions. And I don't think he sucks. I think he just is challenged. He's Dejuan Gordon in the half court. You don't know what's going to happen. It might be good. It might be horrible. But you got to let him learn from his mistakes and get him there. Because there's an upside to Gills if he just learns his game. And our game here is sponsored by The Fridge. Our segments are sponsored by Tanner's in the High-Low. Do all of those things and have a very merry new year. Hold on. It's a happy new year. Whatever your new year is going to be, make it a good one, because 2020 will soon be behind you. I felt like 2020 has been behind us the whole time. That wasn't appropriate, but it's fitting. Questions from Zach Carlson.
Or to build on your comparisons, is Gills Tua Tagovailoa and I'm Ryan Fitzpatrick coming in to back up and take over?
Ooh, yeah.
You know, when you need the good guy to come in and clutch it.
You're just a closer, the bullpen pitcher.
Okay.
It gets very confusing if you're Fitzmagic. I don't know what. It's very. I feel like I'm being intruded upon.
Yeah. Anyway, first question's from PowerCat Ryan. What if the answer to the football team's problems isn't who is exiting or entering through the transfer portal, but investing more time and energy in the players that are on the roster?
I think we heard Kleiman basically say that. I think Coach Kleiman, the guys that are here, we're going to try to get them better, and that's why he wanted the bowl game. What a crap show bowl games have been.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Those Cheez-Its are pretty cool, though.
That's a good game.
Those weren't Cheez-Its. Those were just blocks of cheese sitting in the stands.
Oh, I was talking about the Cheez-It bath that Gundy got. He had to shake Cheez-Its out of his sweatshirt.
Mullet-shaped Cheez-Its. Some marketing. Yeah, I think there is a real upside to the guys on the team. And, again, they want to be, quote, a developmental program, which is what Bill Snyder did. They want to get guys in and develop them. And if you're not invested in the program, whether you're transferring or talking about it or whatever, you're not investing yourself. So move on or get refocused. It doesn't matter, but they will do that. I think the portal guys are the modern equivalent of junior college guys, going to plug some holes here and there. Need some depth at linebacker? Here's a guy that was okay at Utah State. He'll be okay at Kansas State. Here's a defensive tackle that was okay at Charlotte. He's going to be okay at Kansas State. But they're going to be able to play and contribute. I don't see a Briley Moore yet. There might be a guy like that out there. We'll find out. But really, again, it's going to be about these young guys. And if you read my Christmas Day thing about the comparisons to past players, some were reaches, I admit it. But I see some really big upside in a lot of these young guys that they're signing. They're kind of like a different level of guy than K-State football's had for the past 15 years. So it's I think it's encouraging. I think you're right. Just invest in these guys. Like Hazel Horse, I'm really intrigued to see how good Gavin becomes, because I think he could be a really good player. Maybe he just won't ever pan out. But it's going to be a fun process.
Yeah, I think, we kind of forget, it's easy to look at who's just signed, Jake Rubley, Gavin Hazelhorse, guys like that. But then you go back a couple of years and you're in this gap where there were some really good players you signed a couple of years ago, but they still haven't played yet, and they've been developing. And it's easy to forget that we're just not seeing them. They're next in line. They're going to be ready, but it's tough to see it because those gains haven't been realized yet. There's guys like Nate Matlack and other guys that are going to be coming up through the system here that, were really good prospects. And, there's still prospects, but, just like every year and, throughout college football, we kind of need to relax. And, hey, you've got some guys in your hand right now, they're going to play and they're going to be all right. So, yeah, I kind of agree with the question here that, yeah, it's about development first and not about trying to, grab a guy through the portal or, using the portal to plug in your roster for an entire year. I mean, that's just not going to work. You're going to have to develop your guys. From Oilercat 2, is there any word on when or if there will be spring football?
I think they're planning on it. I mean, I think by playing the season, they proved that they're capable of maintaining enough healthy players to have practice. So I don't see why they wouldn't have spring football this next year, particularly as, more and more people get the vaccine. Hopefully the spread dies down or the severity of because really the vaccine's intriguing to me. It doesn't really prevent you from having COVID. It just takes all of the strength out of it. It attacks a certain protein that makes it, really deadly for some people. And that protein lets it enter your cells and it stops that. So very interesting way. I've read something quite informative about that. So COVID will still be around, but it's not going to be as dangerous to everyone that has the vaccine. And what's different about this vaccine, and I didn't know this, that there actually isn't COVID in the vaccine. In the past, they've used the vaccine had some of whatever the virus was or to help you fight it off, to teach your body how to fight it off. And this is totally different. So I think a lot of people's fears about the vaccine are unfounded, but that would be using logic. So I think they'll have spring football. Guys will still have to be careful about things. There's no doubt about it. But I think they realize as players they probably really value what they can accomplish in those 15 practices. There will not be a spring game. I can assure you of that. There wasn't going to be one this year. There won't be one, in 2021. They're going to just practice, and that's fine with me.
From PowerCat Ryan, what is one positive that you will take away from the COVID-19 experience? Something that you had to change in your life, the way you conduct business, or changes you made that probably you wouldn't have otherwise that you will carry into your post-COVID life.
Gills?
Well, one positive is a positive test.
Yeah, you're going to have the antibodies here pretty soon. We were just commenting on that. Maybe you can come in and record in person with me.
Yeah.
Have to get the antibodies, and you're not a possible infectious carrier for me.
And I can yell at people that yelled at John Higgins, "Hey, put your mask up. I already had COVID."
That's pretty funny.
That was funny when
Gills, I'm interested as a young guy who's had his senior year screwed up by COVID. Have you found positives in this?
I think just being grateful for, what you have in the current moment. Normal life, we take everything for granted. You don't know what you have till it's gone. So I think just family and friends, really valuing them as well. I think I texted a lot of people for the first time, like my whole life, on Christmas, just wishing them happy holidays. It's not something that, I've ever done before. So just being thankful and grateful for everything that we do have, because it could be a lot worse. Even though 2020 does suck, could be a lot worse. So just being grateful for what we have, and, when things are back to normal, knock on wood, being appreciative of that.
The 2020 can bite my ass. I mean, it's just been a horrible year. To be a guy with stage 4 cancer, even though it is not active right now, to have other underlying health issues and have this going on has just been stressful beyond what I can describe. I'm a social person that is holed up at home. But what I've learned is I can do this. I mean, it's not easy for me. I can't wait to get back to beers on a Friday afternoon. Sit down at the bar at Tanner's or, one of my other favorite bars. I've thought a lot about older Aggieville, early 2000s, when I was at So Long Saloon almost nonstop and hung out there, and how many of my friends I still have that were bartenders or employees there. I mean, the owners are friends, and I miss all of those guys. I saw one of them, Ben Warda, recently, and so it's made me understand the value that those people have had in my life. Ben now owns Mobile Revive here in Manhattan, got a location in Kansas City. He opened up a second location here in in Manhattan. You're thinking about Salina. That's what's in my mind. And, but I've also always been a guy since 2000. If I'm going to have employees, I want to have an office. And we had an office for 16 years in Aggieville and 3 years in downtown Salina. Oh, Jesus. Downtown Manhattan. Apparently COVID has eaten away at my brain. I've lost giant segments of my past in downtown Manhattan. And I love having an office. But as soon as COVID hit, I was done going to the office. So we were paying rent for an office that I couldn't go to, couldn't be around you guys. We're doing this over Zoom, which is honestly not ideal, but this works. We can get this done. And now we've constructed a really cool studio space here in the house. I mean, you guys have been in it. It's really nice, usable space. Is it as great as we had at the office with a separate podcast room? No, it's not, but this works. This will get it done. And it's now downstairs, and so I feel like I'm going to work more than, physically go to another part of the house instead of just the whole room across from our bedroom. So I've learned a lot that there's more than one way to do this. Probably the worst thing is, as you folks at Go PowerCat know, I had to let go of one of my best friends because of the finances of COVID and what our company's going through at times. So that has sucked. But the other side of that is I've discovered that we can create some content that we would have probably never arrived at. So I appreciate everyone. I think I value the customers even more because times are tough and we really haven't dropped numbers. We well, all businesses fluctuate, but it's really been pretty consistent. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the customers. I'm thankful for you guys, how hard you work at times, all the part-timers, Ryan Wallace and Michael Goins, Adam Suderman, David Sabota pitching in now a little bit. We got to get him more involved in basketball, but it's all been good. There's been a little reinvention of this company, and I appreciate Ryan asking the question.
I feel like the bank buying our building is almost like a blessing.
I know.
You know?
I know.
It's like, hey, we're going to take over your building, you know? Okay. You know, with less employees, and, you know, it sucks that we lost the studio, but that we worked so hard on, but, you know, I wasn't one that would go into the office all the time because I would just, you know, work at home in my basement, you know, having to, you know, it's easy to go to the office when you live over there, like, you know, other people did. And I'm just like, you know, it's not really worth it for me to drive 15 minutes to go to downtown Manhattan and, you know, work on my laptop, you know, where I could just do it at my house. So, you know, nothing really changed for me when I think about it. You know, I would have been just working at this same desk that I'm at right now, you know, at home.
But we clearly miss, more than anything else, WTC high-speed fiber.
Oh, we missed the internet.
Oh, my God. Oh, my best option at home is one step above crappy. But now I'm hardwired. We did move everything, so I'm hardwired into my modem with all my stuff. So now at least I have the best speed available instead of whatever's coming across my wireless at that moment.
Yeah. Moving on to Ohio Power Cat. Have you heard if we plan on picking up any more players from the transfer portal?
I'm sure they will. I don't think they're in a hurry. I mean, I know they've been talking to one. If you've been following Ryan Waltz's thread, they're playing.
This Christmas gift is turning into a Valentine's Day gift here soon.
Put your transfer portal in. Put your transfer portal out. I mean, this guy is in. He's out. He's, you know, I don't know what's going on. And Wally's like, he was coming, and now we're not sure. They're not done. They're absolutely not done. I don't see any way they don't hit a receiver. I just don't see any way they don't pick up one receiver. But they're also, I think they're being very thorough. The other side of this is there's so many freaking guys in the portal. There's about as many guys in the portal as there are for the 2022 recruiting class that you have available. There's just so many guys in the portal. It's hard to evaluate, hard to figure out that, hey, this guy at Utah State or Charlotte actually can help us because everyone's going to fight over the really visible guys that are leaving big programs. And is that a good use of your resources to try to get him when you may not? I don't know. We saw West Virginia get a really good linebacker out of Arizona through the portal, and that worked out great for them. Maybe K-State will find a receiver that can come in and impact them, maybe in the way that Briley Moore did out of the 1AA. Dang it, I did it. FCS ranks. They'll always be the 1AA to me. They just will. Shouldn't have changed it. So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some more action. I'll be stunned if this is all they do.
I agree. I think that there will be at least one more, you know, probably even in addition to whatever Wally's teasing here. So, you know, I think that we're not going to be done for a while, and I think you'll see a few more guys, you know, come out. And I think that, yeah, a wide receiver is probably, you know, the number one on the wish list, you know, circled in big red ink. Yep. You know, a wide receiver is critical for this team in 2021.
Yeah. Well, I'll volunteer this. I think the guy that Wally's talking about would really help the team and make people excited.
From I Like Pickles Cat, knowing the physical toll Power 5 football takes in the short and long term for players, would you suggest to players that they play past their fifth year?
Well, it's up to everyone out there. I mean, I can see if you're not going to be an NFL guy, I don't know, man. If your body's taking a toll, don't keep beating it up. I mean, trust me, I'm an old guy that didn't play, you know, high-level competitive sports. I played a lot of volleyball, and to this day I have a really bad shoulder and a really bad knee from just that. Low impact, hit the floor with my knee, but you know, all these things add up, and I don't care if you're a weekend warrior playing softball. whatever injuries you've had doing that, when you're 40, 50, you feel it all. I mean, and I'm very conscious of it because Marcus Watts has the body of a 50-year-old man. He just does. It's just so beaten up, back problems. The break in his hand still hurts. All those things add up. So if you're just a guy, you might just want to move on, particularly if you have a good degree and you've got a good job lined up. I mean, I think that might be the case with Drew Wiley. Just move on. But now he might actually have a shot at the NFL because he advanced so far. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I mean, but if you're a guy like Noah Johnson, who hasn't had much wear and tear on your body, hasn't played as much, yeah, come back. Drew McPherson, you got a few injuries, but I don't know that it's really added up to severe stuff. Come back. Sure, that sounds good. Skyler, feels like he has something to prove. So, yeah, he's going to come back. He needs to prove something, whether that means how he stands in the history of Kansas State football or that he can play at the next level. Whatever he needs to prove, he feels like he needs to come back. Do it. Do it. Whatever works for you, man.
I say if you have a legitimate shot at improving enough to, get a shot at the NFL, you should come back. And if you're still having fun, you should come back. If you feel healthy enough and you feel like, the risk of, whatever one more year of toll on your body it's going to take, if you're comfortable with the risk of that and you're still having fun, yeah, come back. But, if you're a guy like Elijah Sullivan or Justin Hughes and you've been around for 6, do you want to come back for a 7th year? I mean, and play college football and maybe increase your chances. I mean, there's points, where you got to say, hey, the fun or whatever I'm getting out of this isn't, what I'm putting in. What I put into this, I'm not getting the return that I should be, whether it's enjoyment, pro prospects, whatever else it is, an extra degree, some of it's education, some of them, maybe you want to get a PhD or something in whatever you want, I guess, if you can get a free degree, especially in this day and age when, college debt is, extremely expensive, why not? But is the cost of putting your body on the line, worth what you're getting out? So that would be my advice. Are you having fun? Well, yeah. Is the risk worth it? And if the risk is worth it, for your health, yeah, take it.
I might grad transfer to Northwestern to get a master's there, but that's just me. Like I can never get a degree at Northwestern.
I know it's a little different with basketball, but we talked on the Insiders podcast a few weeks back with Chris and Jay. I forget who said what, but one of them said if this was the same situation as a senior, playing, basketball is too much. My body's had enough. And then the other one just said, I'm only young once, give me another season. So it really does depend on the player and what they can really get out of that last season. So there is no right or wrong answer.
Yep. It was Jay that was done with it. And which is, for him, it was just it wasn't about the games or the physical wear and tear. It was just kind of everything, trying to go to practice, do all the things you have to do as a student athlete and get your degree because he was going to law school. So, good grades were important. And Griff was like, hey, I'd play again. I'd do it. It's my chance. It's, he knew he wasn't going to be a next level guy. So he would have done it. It was a really interesting discussion. That's on the Insiders podcast at GoPowerCat.com.
The last question of the podcast from Oiler Cat 2. The Big 12 is off to a good start in bowl games. How do you think Oklahoma and Iowa State will do?
Well, doesn't Oklahoma play tonight as we record this? I think they're both going to win.
OU has Florida in the Cotton Bowl. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think they're both pretty good teams. I think what we're seeing in bowl games is I think the Big 12 was actually pretty good this year. It's been so difficult this year because there weren't the non-conference games that you need to really compare things. And the non-conference games we did have really didn't indicate what teams were. Iowa State would beat the out of Louisiana right now. It didn't really matter. I mean, it was just one of those cases where those teams in the warm weather states that got in spring football were far more advanced in early September, mid-September than Big 12 teams. Didn't mean a thing. But do we know anything about how SEC teams fare against other teams? No, because they didn't play anyone outside their conference. It was a giant incestuous football orgy. And we're about to find out, how does Clemson really add up? Because the ACC so far has sucked. So were Clemson and Notre Dame really good, or were they the best two teams playing ACC schedules this year, and they just looked good because they were comparing to each other? Is the SEC normal? No, I don't think it was. I think Alabama was far better than everyone else in the SEC. I think the playoff will be interesting this year because we have so little to go on, but I'm a Big 12 guy. I think Oklahoma and Iowa State will both win. And, I can't talk about my Heisman vote, but I think Iowa State has one of the best players in the country.
I get the feeling that OU's going to win since they're not in the playoff. Any year they go to the, whatever the New Year's 6 year bowl is, they will win. Yeah.
That was Fitz. That was not me, by the way.
And I think that OU will win since they're not in the playoff. Iowa State, I say they lose because when they get onto a grand stage, they will flail and fail. I don't think they will win their bowl game.
I love OU. I know this will be posted, at midnight after the game's over, but I love OU. I'm not so confident with Iowa State just because, Oregon, I have bad memories with bowl games against Oregon. So I think Oklahoma's going to get a big win. But with every bowl game, it really just depends who cares and wants to show up and, who's going to be playing. We saw with Oklahoma State, Wallace was out for the second half, and then Ellinger. Was Ellinger actually injured, or was he just –
No, yeah,
he actually was?
He injured his shoulder, yeah.
That's not good. I thought it was just a little excuse to get out. No,
I thought the Talon Wallace thing was weird. I saw a tweet.
Yeah, that was planned.
That he was going to only play a half.
Yeah,
crazy. What's the point?
If I had a player, even one of his stature, come to me and say, "Coach, I just want to play half, and then I'm going to opt out at halftime," I'd say, "No, man, you're either in with us or you're out. Pick one, and we're going to go that way." I mean, that's just that's obscene.
If you only want to play a half, go get called for targeting in your previous game. But
then you'd only play the second half, not the first half.
But yeah, if a player came up to me and said, "I only want to play a half," I'm going to save him for the second half, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, that didn't make sense either. So that almost sounds like it was like Tylen didn't tell anyone, and then at halftime he goes, "Coach, I'm opting out." Yeah, what? Man, that'll make your mullet curl.
I got all my bowl game gifts. I'm out. See you later.
It's actually not a bad idea. That's pretty smart on his part. What bowl were they in? What was it?
It was the Cheez-It Bowl.
Oh, you got those things. I had Time Hop gave me the Fiesta Bowl when I was eating chips and salsa for breakfast one morning, because it's all I had in my damn room was chips and salsa we had hoarded from the awesome hospitality area at the Fiesta Bowl, and had taken it back to my room on the sprawling campus of the what's that resort? The
Camelback Inn.
Camelback Inn. Man, I love and hate that place. Cheez-It Bowl. The wonderful tradition of bowl season. The Duke's Mayo Bowl and the Cheez-It Bowl. Man, I remember when I was a kid watching those games. Is that it? Are we done?
That's it. We're done.
Yeah, that sounded like a guy with COVID right there. That's good. Yeah. Zach, take care of yourself, man.
I will.
Stay safe.
I think you should. You've been doing a lot of selling of trading memorabilia.
I sure have.
Now make sure you lick each envelope. There you go. I've included a free gift with every purchase on eBay. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thank you to The Fridge and our segment sponsors. We'll be back in 2021 with a new attitude. But the same K-State sports, so it'll probably add up to the same attitude. 2020, bite me. Talk to you later, everyone.
PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.